Howdy, roofers, and welcome to our latest workshop, Hiring Rockstar Employees with Ryan Englin. This is going to be so cool because one of the biggest problems that I see when we start working with uh, roofing companies is they need to start hiring people, right? And we've had this happen time and time and time again. So therefore, I have started to create relationships with people in the industry to help us help our clients. Okay. But the cool part about this is that Ryan really knows his stuff. He honestly used to be an agency owner, right? And he's going to tell his story here in a little bit. But little things to know about Ryan is that he is an multiple author, right? Meaning that he's written several books on hiring. Okay. Hire the Ones You Want to Fire is his first book, and his
You
latest
won't want
book,
to fire.
You Won't Want to Fire. Oh, I
Yeah.
said that wrong.
Not the ones
Absolutely.
we want to fire. We don't want to hire any
Yeah.
more of those.
Yeah. And then the next book, Hire Better People Faster. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us and agreeing to come on here and teach us how to find rockstar employees.
Oh, thanks for inviting me. And you'll have to forgive me if I get a little passionate about this topic because I'm incredibly passionate about it. As you can tell, I got 2 books and I meet with a publisher on next Friday for my 3rd book. So I got
Wow.
lots of ideas to share.
All
Lots of
right.
ideas
That's
to share.
awesome. All right. I'm
So
going to stop sharing and I'll let you share your screen here, Ryan.
yeah. Well, I thought we'd just chat for a minute. We've got a small group of people here, and I love when we do these intimate sessions because what I've learned is I can stand up here and I can preach and I can lecture and I can tell everybody this is what you should do. And then the people on the call are like, yeah, but I need to solve this problem. Like, this
Mhm.
is where I'm bleeding. This is where I need the help. So I want to throw this out to everybody. If you're on right now and you want me to address a specific people related issue that you're having, whether it's I can't find enough good people, how do I get the people I have to actually show up for work and perform? If we wanted to, we could even talk like I've got this foreman that I just need to get rid of. Like, how do I do that? People related. I'd love to chat about it. I mean, we can digress, go in a bunch of different directions, but I want to make sure it's incredibly valuable for the people that took time out of their busy day. Because I imagine these guys are all busy and took the time out of their day to come here. So if you want to throw it in the chat, I will do my best to answer your question, maybe even ask some clarification. But in lieu of that, I've got some slides. I've got some fun conversations that we're going to have, some things that we've learned over the years doing this. But before we get into that, as Chris said, I'm going to tell my story real quick. I want to share a little bit about how I got to where I'm at, why I do this, and why the trades of all the industries out there, I pick the one that has been struggling for decades to solve this problem. And so I grew up in a blue collar household. My dad was an owner operator. We probably all met one of them or many, where they can't just seem to get off the shop floor. They can't seem to get out of the truck. They can't seem to get off the job site. And we all know these entrepreneurs. And so as I did like any good son and told my dad I'm not going into the family business, I went a different route. I said, I'm going to go corporate. I'm going to do the enterprise thing. I'm going to see how that works. Newsflash, it doesn't work well. So didn't last there for too long, about a decade. And I said, you know what? I want to help people like my dad, these owner operators that can never seem to get themselves away from the job site. So I started a marketing agency, believing that the problem was a revenue generating problem. Like, cash solves a lot of problems in business. So I thought maybe it's just a cash issue. So I started an agency, started working with service contractors, did that for about 4 or 5 years. And a bunch of them just called me. It was like they all got together. Like, they had their own little like focus group and said, hey, we just need to all quit this month. I kept getting phone call after phone call. I don't need more leads. I don't need more help with marketing. I got empty trucks. I'm short crews. I can't take on more business even if I wanted to. And so I took my decade in corporate where we did a lot of hiring and firing and performance management. And I said, maybe I can teach some of these things to these entrepreneurs that are struggling with recruiting. So I had one HVAC contractor that I was working with, and they had 4 empty trucks. They were done. They were like, we don't even know. It's busy season. It's July in Phoenix. And I said, well, let's see if we can fill those trucks. 3 weeks later, They call me back. They said, turn the leads back on. We filled all 4 trucks. We got 2 more techs and we got 2 more trucks ordered because we got that many techs that showed up that we wanted to hire. I thought, wow, that was fun. Let's do that again. And so I started calling some other clients, and they all needed the same help. Fast forward 5, 6 years, we turned it into a whole process. We call it the Corfit hiring system. And now we teach contractors all over the country, actually all over the world. We've had clients in Australia and some other far international places that are learning this exact same process. So it was something that I'm incredibly passionate about. And I think that there is an industry that has been ignored. Like, we almost just accept, oh, you're in the trades, it's going to be tough. And so people have ignored the industry, and they kind of turned their back on helping solve this problem. And what we found is that it's really not hard to solve it, but we do have to change the way we think about solving the problem. And that's what I want to share today on today's webinar. So as was just thrown in the chat, remember, if you got any questions, anything that you want specifically addressed today, I am here to help and support you. But in lieu of that, I'm going to share my screen and just give you guys a little bit more insight into how we can solve this problem. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the slide. All right, perfect. So a little bit about us at Core Matters. We want to create positive work environments for 500,000 employees by helping small business owners hire and retain the right people. And there's a couple of things you'll notice in there. Number one, our focus is on the employee. It's on the job seeker. Everything we do, we call job seeker first. We want to make it a great experience for the job seeker from the time they apply to the time they're hired to the time they retire from your company, which is one of the things that we do differently. It's not about what the employer needs, because if we can give the job seeker what they need, if we can give the employee what they need, they're going to take care of our needs by taking care of our customers. We learned that a long time ago. So that's one of the big shifts that we make. The other thing you're going to notice is a small business. Yes, I could go the enterprise route. I could work with the big companies, the billion-dollar organizations. They would gladly pay me for some of this. But they got so many other issues that we can't solve quickly. And in small business, we can pivot. We can make quick decisions. We can get results so much faster. And it's people like my dad, small business owners. Like, it just goes back to that. It crushes me when people tell me that they had to cut their vacation short because they're down a person, or they haven't taken a vacation in 7 years, or they don't get to make it to their kids' little league team or dance recitals or whatever it is, and they're missing their kids growing up. And that's why I do what I do, is to solve that problem. And it works really well when you can embrace the mindset shift. So let me show you some of those shifts. Let me show you some of those things. And so we're just going to talk next 25 minutes or so, and then I'll open it up to questions. Just talk to you a little bit about the process, some of the things that we have learned along the way. And one of the first shifts that I want you guys to make, and this actually isn't in here, is, and this is why I think it's so great to get to talk to Chris, is recruiting is a marketing activity. And I want you guys to realize that it really is. It's putting the right message in front of the right people at the right time. That's marketing 101. Mm-hmm. So stop giving it to your HR person and saying, hey, can you go recruit for me? Because they're not marketers. They're compliance people. And they don't fully understand what it means to be a job seeker and how to create a great experience for them, which is why I want to share with you this concept of the employee experience. I don't know how many of you have heard this term. It's fairly academic, but it's so real. And I want you guys to embrace this idea. So let's pretend that this business, that your business is this Apple. This is the best way I've figured out how to do this. We spend a lot of time as business owners focused on our brand experience. It's what we see. It's our website. It's our wraps. It's our uniforms. It's our business cards. It's our signage. It's our social media pictures. We spend a lot of time on it. A lot of marketing companies, this is all they focus on, is creating this brand experience. When someone walks into a grocery store and they see the mushed up apple with brown spots and stuff, they ignore it unless they're making an apple pie. They look for the ones that have the clean looking skin, that look healthy. And that's the apple we end up buying. It's the same thing with your business. When a customer looks at your business and it looks like you're growing and you've got great things for them and people are happy and you've got great reviews, they're going to buy from you. Well, the same thing is true with employees. Employees want to have a great brand experience as well. And we'll get to that in a minute. The one that we spend all of our time on is this customer experience. What is it that people crave? When they do business with you, do you honor your agreement? Do your people show up on time? Are they professional looking? This is a crazy one, but do they smell okay? Like, you wouldn't believe how many times people are just like, I don't care how you smell, just get out there and get the work done. This is what the customer wants. This is what they pay you money for. This is what we put so much energy into delivering this great process so that they get exactly what they expected. But all of this is for nothing if the core of this apple is not healthy. If your employee experience is not on point, if you are not putting your employees first, I mean, after all, who is it that executes on your customer experience? It's your employees. We all are in the business of our product is our people. Like, without our people, we can't do the work. Without a tear-off crew, you're not starting a new roofing job. Without a tile crew, you're not putting on the new roof. Like, you can't do these things without the people. So when we shift our focus and instead start on the inside of the apple or start on the inside of our business and we focus on the employee experience first, we'll create more happy, more engaged, more productive, more profitable employees who will then in turn deliver better for your customer and take care of the customer experience. And those customers, in today's day and age where everything's a review site and they're solicited for reviews all the time and we have reputation management, your customers will take care of your brand. They will give you the 5 stars on Google. They'll give you the 5 stars on Yelp. They'll give you that word of mouth referral. They will take care of it. So if you could just shift your thinking and say, hey, let's put more emphasis on the employee experience, which will then take care of our customers, which will then take care of our brand, we can do astronomically more with our business in just making this one shift. And so everything that we do is focused on that employee experience first, and I encourage you to do the same thing. So I want to introduce you to the 3 different types of recruiting. These are the recruiting systems. The first one is hunting. We're all very familiar with hunting. We all know what that's like. We hire a recruiter, we hire someone out to go find us a crew, or to find us a foreman, or to find us a superintendent, or a project manager, or an estimator. And we pay them a lot of money to get us one person. It's very expensive, requires precision planning, dedication, ongoing investment, because once you've hired that one, you got to start it all over. The next one is farming. And there's a lot more talk about this now. These are apprenticeship programs. These are training programs. These are the systems that we create to say, hey, you're not quite who we need. We'll train you up. But the problem with farming is it takes a long time. And often we don't even know if we're going to yield a good crop for a year or two. Those are both great recruiting tools. But I like to take the approach that recruiting is more like fishing. You see, once you understand where the fish are, once you understand how to attract and reel in the fish, all of a sudden recruiting is going to become so much easier for you. And if you hire the right guide, they're going to teach you how to fish so that you don't have to worry about hiring them over and over and over again. And that's our philosophy over here at Core Matters. So I'm going to throw this out to everybody. And Chris, feel free to play along. But I don't know if you fish or not. But for those of you on here, I love fishing in the real world. So, but when you're going fishing, what's the first decision that you make? And by making that decision, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary. You guys can throw it in the chat, or if you want to unmute and chime in, I'm happy for that too.
I think I can answer here. I think where you're going to fish is the first decision, right?
Where? It could be. Ross, do I wake up and go fishing? I guess you don't like fishing, Ross. Is that? But
well, just the decision to fish.
Yeah. Just the decision to go fishing. So here's the reality. So where can actually be dictated by answering a different question first. What do we want to catch?
Mhm.
See, if I want to go deep sea fishing for mahi and I head up to the river, we're going to have a problem. If I want to go trout fishing today and I go down to the Gulf of Mexico, we're going to have a problem. But we often think that where is the first decision we make. So when we're recruiting, what do we usually do? Where are all the fish? Well, they're on Indeed. Newsflash, they are not. What is on Indeed right now, for the most part, are the fish that everybody threw back. And we don't encourage you to go on Indeed. I mean, we have to, but definitely don't spend money on Indeed because you're not going to get what you pay for. So we like to take this approach of what do we want to catch? And so you have to be clear on what you want, because if you're not, and you just say, I don't know, let's go someplace close. We've all hired this three-eyed guy before, right? You end up fishing downstream from a nuclear power plant, and you end up getting this fish. And you're just like, I can't use this. This person doesn't know how to use their hands. They're afraid of heights. They can't show up on time. Reliable transportation is not the city bus. Like, let's get really clear. But we've all hired that person because we went someplace close. We went to Indeed. We went to another job board. You know, for some of us, we go and we find someone on another job site that they're sitting around just having too much fun on the iPhone and like, well, if they're not busy, I can keep them busy. But we hired the wrong behavior. So get really clear on who you want first. If you haven't done this for, hey, Chris, you probably do this all the time in the marketing world. It's like, let's figure out who's your ideal customer.
Yep.
Like, before we start throwing money at ads, let's figure out who this ideal customer is. What do they want? Where do they hang out? Where do they spend their time? What carrot would actually that we could dangle in front of them that they would go, I'm interested? Or what pain do they have that we need to solve? And how do we solve it? I mean, is that fair, Chris?
Absolutely. Yeah. You've got to know your target audience, before anything.
So,
and yeah,
go ahead.
in roofers terms, in marketing, they've got to know where, even better, that the best homes are, right, in their service area. And let's target those areas instead of everywhere.
Yeah. Praying for a hailstorm is not a marketing strategy.
No,
it's not. But I mean, these roofers, I love it. Like, I know a lot of roofers in Arizona where it never rains. Like, they know the chance of rain on any given day, like from memory, because it only rains like 6 days a year. So they're just praying for rain, but that's not a marketing strategy. And neither is it here, where we just say, hey, let's just go throw some ads on Indeed and see what happens. Get really clear on who you want. Now, the one disclaimer I'm going to say, and I'm not an attorney, not a compliance expert, but most of the things that we do when we define our ideal customer, it's illegal to do those when you define your ideal employee. Because there's a lot of protected classes out there. So we have to be really careful. We don't get to say, this is Jill, Jill's 42, or Jill's 28. We don't get to do either one of those, because sex is a protected class and age is a protected class. So we have to be really careful when we define the right people. And I want you to think of behaviors. So think of 1 or 2 people that are on your team that you would clone if you had a cloning machine or a magic wand, or you could just plant seeds and it would just grow more of them. And think about what it is about them and their behaviors that you like. Write those all down. They show up on time. They clean up the job site. They talk respectfully to their crew and to the customer. They're willing to take on extra work. They're willing to work overtime. They're willing to go get trained to learn how to use new tools or do things better. Like, write down all those behaviors that make it very exciting for you to clone that person. And then start creating your ads and start interviewing for those things. And it will be a game changer, because you'll no longer have to compete with all the fish that got thrown back. Because you're like, oh, the people that I want, they're not on Indeed. They're over here instead. And then we can go over there and we can spend less money, less time, and have better results. So I've already beat up Indeed a lot, but here's my cartoon that explains that. So on the left here is Lake Indeed. You've got millions of employers with their pole in the water going, where are the good ones at? I don't understand why this seems to be overfished. In the meantime, you got the guy over here on the right that just went around the other side of the mountain and said, hey, I got a fishing hole where exactly who I want to catch is there. And you'll see this throughout the rest of the cartoons. When you see the yellow or the goldfish, those are the ones we want. Those are the ones we want. And so he's out here by himself because no one else has thought, well, if I just go the other side of the mountain, I can catch all the fish I want. Or maybe the guy on the left doesn't want the ones that the guy on the right is catching. And that's true too. So we have to be really clear on where we go. So when we talk about looking for employees or finding employees, I want you to think less in the fact of individuals and more in where. Where do I look? In fact, we have a process that we teach called the bench, where we actually go create your own fishing hole and we stock it with ideal candidates so that in a year when you need another crew, you took on a big project and you need another superintendent, you just go fishing in your own pond, the one that you've been stocking over the years. So we teach that process. The next one is fun when we think about fishing. Remember the example earlier, if we're going trout fishing, it's a different rod. It's a different type of line. It's a different lure. It's a different, trout fishing, you might need waders. You might need a boat. You're going deep sea fishing. You need a different kind of boat. Like you need the right gear. I imagine that, Chris, if for those listening right now, I would imagine you encourage the use of some sort of customer relationship management system, CRM.
Absolutely. Yep.
Allows us to track, allows us to get good reporting and data. Of course, if the quality of the data is good, but
yeah.
And then we can make better decisions based on what's happened historically. Well, the same holds true in your recruiting. And I don't know that I've talked to a roofer yet that actually uses the right tools for recruiting. Most of them go just straight to Indeed. But it turns out that there is a system out there called an applicant tracking system. I don't know if any of you have heard of that before. But it's just like a CRM. I say it's just like a CRM, except instead of managing customers, it manages all the people applying for your jobs. And when they come into the system, you can automate email follow-up, texting. You can do it all through the system. You can actually take the system and invite someone else on your team, like an office manager in, and they can actually help you screen and sort and schedule candidates versus it being in your inbox and you're out in the field and you're sitting there forwarding emails fast back to the office so they can take care of it. They can actually come into the same system. The other cool thing is it puts your jobs on Indeed for free. Put your jobs on ZipRecruiter for free, on Monster, on Career Builder, on all these job boards for free. So a lot of times companies that are spending a few $100 a month on Indeed will actually be able to stop spending that money and they'll get the same amount of quality applicants through the applicant tracking system. So I share that to let you all know that this does exist. They're not free, but 150, $200 a month, depending on the size of the company. They're not expensive. Many people are spending more than that on Indeed. So you just stop spending Indeed money and you put it in the applicant tracking system and you'll bring in more people. So we talk a lot about using the right gear, and the applicant tracking system is just one. And if someone wants, I'll give a way to contact me at the end. You can reach out to me and my team and I'll send you the list of applicant tracking systems that we like so you can go evaluate them and check them out. So here we got guys that are like, you know what? I'm just going to throw a stick of dynamite in the lake. Because if I just cast a big net, there's bound to be one or two good ones in there. And you can see, yes, there's a couple good ones in there, but look at all the garbage they got to sort through. Have we ever felt like that? Come in Monday morning, your inbox is just blown up with all these people that applied over the weekend. You're like, garbage, garbage, garbage. Yeah, maybe garbage. Ooh, this one looks better than the last maybe. And you go back and you just keep filtering and filtering. That's what happens when we don't use the right gear. You see that applicant tracking system, you can actually set up rules that says, if they don't check these boxes, decline them automatically for me. Don't even show them to me. Really powerful stuff. So I want you to stop thinking about casting a wide net or just throwing a stick of dynamite into the lake and catching whatever bubbles up to the surface, because last time I checked, most of us don't have a lot of free time. So the time that we do have, we have to be very intentional about protecting it and making sure we're using it for the right things. The next one's to use the right bait. You know, a lot of people think, you know what, I'm gonna throw this question out there. Besides pay and benefits, is there anything else that you feel you can compete on when it comes to recruiting? Or is it all about the dollars and cents?
To me, I think that they're different people treat that differently, right? We'll treat that different. But I think to me is like what you were talking about earlier with the core, with the experience and ensuring that you're everything at your core is matching up with that person. I think you're going to attract the right people, right? Again, it goes back to that marketing analogy that it's more of a marketing thing for the right bait. Am I wrong on that?
I mean, let me ask this question. When you're talking to your clients and they're like, oh, I think I just charged too much. Like, I mean, do you let your clients charge the bottom of the market?
No, they shouldn't.
You shouldn't, because there are other things besides price that are important to a customer. Mm-hmm. Same thing is true here. So we never let people pay top of the market, although some do. I'll tell you this. We have someone we're working with. 3 weeks ago, they called me and they said, we just lost somebody. Took a $12 an hour pay cut. $12 an hour pay cut. Oh, yeah. That's 25 grand a year. And this wasn't like some, $400,000 a year job. I mean, this was a $100,000 a year job. Took a $25,000 a year pay cut because they saw an opportunity to go learn somewhere else in a little bit different industry, tangential, but a little bit different industry. And then over time, they could make more freedom and have other things. The stats are not consistent on this, but a lot of the stats would say that most people don't leave for money. And we all know that. Most people don't leave for money. They leave for other things. In fact, the stats would say that only about 9% of employees will actually leave for money. Only about 9%. Like, money is the number one reason they leave. And what I find, especially in the trades, is we think that money is the only thing I can compete on. Everybody else is paying $23 an hour. Well, if I pay 25, I'll get the best people. And what we found is the reality is, no, you will get the people that are chasing the dollar. So if they left someone else for a $2 an hour raise for you, what happens when your competition goes, oh, well, they're paying $25 an hour, I got to pay 26. Then that person's going to leave for an extra $1 an hour somewhere else. The problem is that when we put so much emphasis on pay, we lose sight of the other things that are important, like our company culture, like creating a friendly family environment, like understanding that people need work-life balance, not working them too much overtime. Like, the modern workforce, they want more flexibility. Now, I know that's hard when you're in the trades, but if a guy needs to come in 2 hours late because his kids are sick and he had to take one to the doctor, like, don't reprimand him for that. Like, the reason he's coming to work for you is so he can support his family. Now, on the other side of that, you got to make sure that he doesn't hurt the rest of the crew. Right? So if it's going to hurt the people already on the rest of the crew, on the rest of the team, you have to figure that out. But understand that the people that come to work for you, they do it so that they can create a lifestyle, so that they can take care of their family. They're not working for you just because you're the only one in town they can work for. It's not how that works. So understanding what it is that people want out of the work is really important. And that's what we call the bait. Because here's the thing, you're not competing against every other roofing company out there. You're competing for eyeballs. I love the example of And Chris, you probably know this since you're in marketing, but I always tell people, I'm like, most people don't understand that Coca-Cola's number one competitor is not Pepsi or RC or anything else. Coca-Cola's number one competitor is tap water. When you're thirsty and you have a choice between grabbing a Coke that you paid money for or going to the tap and drinking water for free or next to free, those are the choices you get to pick. So Coca-Cola never gets on and has their commercials of, here's a 12-ounce bottle of Coke. It's $3.99. It has 240 calories in it. Like, we never give all the specs. No, they show people at the park cracking open a Coke on a hot day and, refreshing and all the lifestyle stuff that comes out of buying Coke. And that's how they figure out how to compete with tap water, because nobody ever does that with tap water. Thinks, oh, this is refreshing on a hot summer day. So you have to differentiate yourselves. You're competing for eyeballs. If you're paying $24 an hour and you've got an Amazon warehouse or a Target warehouse in your city and they're paying $24 an hour, I mean, what's the smart person going to do? Sit in a somewhat air-conditioned warehouse all day picking stuff, or sit on the top of a roof in the middle of summer? Like, what are they going to pick for 24 hours? It's not about the money. So if we want people that want to be outside, they want to work with their hands, they want to build something, they want to have some of that autonomy and feel like, go home at the end of the day and feel like they did something of substance, they're going to be a roofer. But if all they want to do is make $24 an hour, there are a lot easier ways to make $24 an hour than being a roofer. So think about that when you're figuring out how to differentiate yourself. The last thing I want you to think about is how quickly we move. So I don't know if you know this, but only 2% of Americans, this was the last study, 2% of Americans can go 30 days without a paycheck and still pay all their bills. Only 2%. Almost 60% of Americans cannot miss one paycheck and continue to pay their bills. That's a little savings we have in America. Now, in the middle of the pandemic, we all had a lot of savings because we all got free money. But that's all gone now. So if 60% of Americans can't miss a paycheck and still pay their bills, wouldn't it make sense that we have to move faster than 30 days to offer them a job? Wouldn't it make sense that if they applied today, they're expecting an answer tonight? Not this weekend, not next week when you get around to it. But I will tell you, so many people will let that application sit in their inbox and like, I'll get to it next week. I'll get to it next week. I'll get to it next week. How many of you would do that for a customer? Somebody called you and they're like, I got a 4,000 square foot roof. If you can get here this afternoon, it's yours. I'll pay whatever you want. Oh, I'll get to them next week. They'll still be there. No, they won't. But what's easier to find right now, a customer or an employee? A good employee. Let's say that. One that you want to keep. Most of you have more business than you can handle because you don't have enough people. Yet we let people sit in the inbox for a week thinking, we'll get to them later. Well, if that person's unemployed or like they just lost their job, or it's one of those jobs they go to and they're sick to their stomach all the time. It's toxic. They can't stand their boss. They need to move quickly. And they need to know that they're going to a company that's willing to move quickly, because once that boss finds out that they're looking, they're gone and they know it. They don't have time. So what do we do though as employers? We let them sit in the inbox, then we call them in a week and they don't call us back. And they don't respond to our text messages. And they don't email us back. And we're sitting here thinking, see, everybody just ghosts us now. I don't know. They called you a week ago and it took you a week to get back to them. Who ghosted who first? Right? They've moved on with their life. They got to make a decision. They got to move quickly. Because what happens is we let people sit, somebody else is going to snatch them up. I learned this lesson when I was out fishing in the Gulf Coast, and we were doing some reef fishing. And it was like my second fish I got in, and it was red snapper, and I got it in. All I had was a head on a hook. And I'm like, what the heck happened? And they're like, oh, there's sharks out there that are hungry. And when they see a fish fighting on a hook, they're opportunistic. They're going to go for it. I'm like, that's what that was. I thought I just got snagged for a second. Like if you don't reel that thing in fast, if the shark's going to get it. Well, we can use that analogy. We can put that here and say, hey, your competition are like sharks. They're opportunistic. They see someone out in the marketplace. You're not getting back to them. Guess what? They're going to jump on it. There are people, if you're not one of them, there are people in your market that are making offers over the phone. That's how desperate they are. They don't even need to see the person and they're making them an offer. You got to move quick.
And
it's the end of my
so,
fishing analogies. So,
and can I add to this,
Yeah.
conversation, because I sat in with at one of my last conferences that I went to. I sat in, and this was an accountant. What's his name? It's dang it, can't remember his name. Greg something or another. And he said that they're actually prior to 2019, prior to the pandemic, right? That the numbers worldwide and in the United States are going together on labor, right? Meaning that labor, there's a huge labor shortage. They're less, and the reason for that is not because of laziness. It's not because of any of this kind of stuff that, we're all being told and everything is being fed to us. What the real reason behind that is because there's less babies that were born 20 years ago, and there are less being born now. So this is something that, we have been fed by the media that it is a labor shortage, because of the pandemic and because of all this stuff. He said, no, this is what we're going to face for the rest of our lives, is this labor shortage, right?
Mhm.
So going back to this fishing analogy and catching the right fish and getting them reeled in quickly is, I mean, that puts a punctuation mark on that, is that if you can find people that are willing to work with you, you've got to get them fast, right? Because like you said, your competition is going to grab them up. So I'll
Yeah.
leave
And,
that back to you.
there's a lot of things. I don't think that it's as simple as saying, oh, we had less babies, although there is part of that. But I think that the world in general, especially in the US, we're due for an evolution inside of business. See, for too long, we've thought the best way to grow our business is to throw more people at the problem.
Mhm.
And when you have less people coming into a certain industry, that's a lot harder to do. And so we sit behind, and this is not a popular opinion, but we sit behind this idea of there being a labor shortage and we play the victim. Woe is me. Oh no. Oh my gosh. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. But we all have control over this. Every single one of us has control and has the opportunity to solve this problem, because I don't believe we have a labor shortage as much as we have a labor crisis. And we've all heard the stats, 40% of people in the trades are going to age out in the next 6 to 7 years. They're just too old to do the work anymore. 40%. You think it's hard now? Let's wait 6 years. But what we found is most companies don't have a hiring problem. They have a retention problem. If you could go back the last 12 months, and don't get me wrong, I want you to ignore whether or not you wanted that person to leave or they were the right person or you could have coached them or trained them or skilled them up. But if you just went back and you looked at your payroll for the last 12 months and every single person that you had made the decision to hire, you kept, and they were good, they were okay employees, not great, but okay, would you have a labor crisis on your hands? And for most of the companies we talk to, the answer is no. They come to us, they need 4 or 5 or 10 or 12 people. Yet they issued 60 more W-2s last year than they had in people at the end of the year. You can't tell me that you didn't have 5 to 10 of those 60 that you let go or that you let leave. You couldn't find 5 or 10 that were worth keeping, investing in, training. So I think a lot of the problem is we've decided we don't want to train people anymore. And I think a bigger thing is we don't want to train them to be adults. And that's another big issue. We have an entire generation that was raised on social media, that was raised by absent parents, that was raised in the school system, and they were never taught work ethic. You look at the boomers and you look at millennials as a stereotype. I know a lot of great hardworking millennials, probably some listening right now, but a lot of millennials don't have work ethic. Well, it's our job as employers to teach them that. And if we don't take that on, we're going to continue dealing with this problem. The other thing too that's hurt us is the gig economy. I can go work for Uber on my own schedule, my own terms, no boss breathing down my neck. I can go be a freelancer. I can go be a YouTube influencer. Like all these other industries that didn't exist 20 years ago are now out there. So let's talk about employee referrals for a second. I'm not going to ask because I know the answer, but we all love employee referrals. When a good employee refers someone, there's a good chance I'm going to hire them, and there's a good chance it's going to work out. And there's a whole bunch of reasons for that. But most companies don't have a solid employee referral program. And the reason is it doesn't work that often. We don't get enough volume from it. We can't just put all our eggs into employee referrals because, well, we don't get enough. We've got to diversify and we got to be in other places. Well, I want to challenge you to think about equipping your team, because if we don't equip our team to make referrals for us, it doesn't go very well. Think about this for a second. Looking for work is a stressful event. Very stressful to look for work. You have no idea if you're jumping out of the frying pan into the fryer. You have no idea if the grass is going to be greener or if it's just growing over a septic tank. You have no idea on these things. And for a lot of, especially men, we got to go home and get permission from our wives to quit our jobs because we might be putting the family in a bind for a little bit. And we got to make sure everybody's supportive of that. But what we do is we go to our team and go, hey, $500 if you can get a friend or family member to come work here. And by the way, not only, this is great news. Not only do you got to get them to just come work here, but you got to help me retain them for 90 days. So we tell people, right? Like you get your $500 after they're here 90 days. So it's not only just an employee referral program now, it's also an employee retention program. Like we're really stacking the deck against ourselves because we're putting all this pressure on our team. Well, what happens when an employee referral doesn't work out? The employee feels awful. So they don't want to take that burden with a friend. But even worse, this is what happens because we don't want our employees to go to their friends who are sitting in their mom's basement playing Xbox all day. That's not what we want. We want our employees to go to their friends who have good jobs, who are good employees to refer them. Fair? And we don't equip them. And so they go to their friends and they have a conversation like this. That's what we're really asking them to do. Can you go convince your friends to quit their job where they're gainfully employed and probably not all that unhappy and come work here? Because my boss is going to reward me if you run through that gauntlet of fire and talk to your spouse and potentially have to skip a full paycheck because payrolls don't sync up. Potentially lose tenure and your PTO because you've been there 2 years and you got to start over here. Like we're asking them to go out and have this conversation with their friends. And we do nothing to equip them. Like I'd imagine that if you're in residential roofing, you probably have a flyer or a door hanger or a card with talking points or something on your contract that says, hey, we love referrals. By the way, let your neighbors know XXXX. Like we coach our clients on how to make referrals. But we never take the time to coach our people. So think about training them, teaching them how to have these conversations.
So let me pause here. What would you, all right. So it doesn't sound like the $250, $500, really works. You're incentivizing them, but what do you recommend then?
Well, I'm a big fan of understanding what your core is. Core is the foundational. It's the thing that makes you tick. It's what gets you out of bed in the morning. A lot of people call it culture. And I think culture is part of your core. But what are your values? Why do you do what you do? How do you behave inside the company? Remember, people want to come work for a place where they feel like they belong. A lot of our employees are going to spend more time with each other than they are with their family in a given week. And so people want to come join a team where they feel like feels like family. It feels like hanging out with friends. It feels like fun because They believe what I believe, and they think how I think, and they behave how I behave. We all value the same things. We all get out of bed every day to do the same thing. So we do a purpose exercise, which is, why do you do what you do? And a lot of time, well, I wasn't a good employee, so I decided to start a business. There are a lot easier ways to build a business than being a roofer. We picked roofing for a reason. Why? Well, it's because what my dad did. Okay, why'd your dad pick roofing? Well, it's what his dad did. Why'd his dad pick roofing? Well, his neighbor needed help. And so he started helping people around the community because they couldn't find a good roofer. And before he knew it, he had the skills, he had the people, he had the tools. And so he started a roofing company. So it was about helping people in the community. It was about being available for people. Like, let's get to why we do this. And when you're able to communicate that stuff well, and you teach your team how to communicate and articulate that through what we call a core story, it makes it way easier for them. Way easier for them. Did that answer your question?
I think so. Yep.
I'll do this one, and we'll see. I have 2 left, and we'll see if we have time for both. By the way, if you have questions, throw questions in the chat. It's been real quiet here. I feel like I've been talking the whole time. So let's talk about vision for a second. I'm sure for marketing, you talk to people about goals. What are your growth goals? Do you have any new products you're going to be launching? You know, what's the business going to look like in 3 or 5 years? Like, we talk a little bit about vision. It's very selfish vision. It's very like all about me and all about bottom line and all about growth and revenue and all that stuff. And that stuff's important. Don't get me wrong. But when you go to your team, when you go to a roofing crew, especially one that doesn't work for you, like, here's the deal. We're going to double the size of our business in the next year. Let me translate that for your team members, your employees. So you want me to come along and help the boss get rich? Because that's what they hear when you say we're going to double the company. That's what they hear when you say we're going to go into new markets. That's what they hear when they say we want to increase the bottom line or increase our profitability or increase our market share. What they hear is, you want me to help make the boss rich. Well, the problem with that is most employees don't want to get on that bus. Like, we've all heard our business is a metaphorical bus. Right? You get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and then they decide where the bus goes, and then you go. Well, the problem with that analogy, where it breaks down, is you still have a bunch of empty seats on the bus. So when you go out and you start hiring these roofing crews, supers, your estimators, they've got to be excited about where that bus is going. Because if not, what happens when the bus breaks down? Or it gets stuck in traffic? Or there's a detour? They're going to get off that bus and say, I wasn't really excited about where we were going anyways. I'm going to get on a different bus. And that's what happens. So what we need to do is we need to teach our people how to communicate that vision. I got a little cartoon here that explains that. So let's say that we own a company and we let everybody know we are going skiing. Like, that's our 10-year plan, is to go skiing. Anybody see anything wrong with this first picture?
Yeah, there's lots of people in swimsuits, it looks like.
Well, yeah, and there's lots of guys dressed up for the snow. So somebody's going to be disappointed soon, aren't they?
Yeah.
Unless we're going to drop them off and go, you go there and you go there. But this is what we do with our business. Hey, we're going to grow. I'm interested in joining a business that's growing, but they don't understand what's in it for them. We talk about with them a lot, which I'm sure you do too. What's in it for them? So all of a sudden we realize you've got a crew that's on this bus, and they just don't seem as excited as they were when we offered them the job. They said all the right things. We had a great time. I felt like we connected, but what's going on? They told me they were excited about helping me grow the company. They told me they were excited that we were going to move into commercial. They told me they were excited we were going to do some service work. They told me we were excited about this stuff. What is going on? I mean, what did I do? Like, hire a bunch of duds? You cannot tell me that I hired a crew of lazy, entitled people. I mean, I guess it's possible, right? Because there's so many of them out there. And we're sitting here thinking there's something wrong with them because they're not excited about where we're going. And then someone with a clearer vision comes up and says, hey, we're going water skiing. And they're like, we're out of here. And we're sitting here thinking, oh, dodged a bullet. I didn't have to fire them. Good riddance. Good luck at the next place. And it was all because we made a decision to hire people who did not align with our core. And this happens in our behaviors, and this happens in our purpose and why we do what we do. This happens in the market we serve. You know, I was really early on in my marketing company, and before I figured out to serve exclusively service contractors, I had this gal working for me. I mean, she was sharp. She was awesome. Just graduated college, marketing. I mean, there was nothing I had to teach her. She was teaching me stuff. It was fantastic. And I came in one time, I told the team, I said, hey, we're going to focus exclusively on service contractors. And I could see her just get deflated because this is why I didn't have a good vision, who we're going to serve and why and all this. And she ends up quitting a few weeks later. And she ends up telling me, she goes, you know, I always had this vision of working with boutique clothing retailers. And she goes, but you've just confirmed for me that that's never going to happen here. So I'm going to go work for someone who affords me that opportunity, because our visions didn't align. Now, sometimes we may not have that conversation and find out they just quit and we're like, fine, she didn't seem like she was performing anyways. Well, it's because she wasn't fulfilled. So that's what happens when we don't communicate those things. And we make these hiring decisions about people that don't align with us, that never will align, and then we blame it on them. So when I go back to saying we have the control, we have the control. We can do this stuff. So are there any questions? I've got one more cartoon if you guys want to see it.
I put a 1 in the comments here if you are still with us and this is all making sense. Everyone, let's keep this interactive. Put a 1.
Oh yeah, if we get a bunch of zeros, we're in trouble.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, put a 0 if I've just lost you a long time ago.
Yeah. So, all right, we got to know where we're fishing, who we're fishing for, right? Going with the fishing analogy, we have to know what bait to use.
Yeah.
We have to know how to retain them.
We got to use the right gear.
Use the right gear, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to know how to have the clear vision in our business before all of this happens, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that we know where we are driving the bus and they're getting on.
Yeah. A lot of times people will tell me they don't have time for that. Feels too fluffy and woo-woo, and like we're all blue collar tradesmen. Like we don't need that stuff.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've learned about guys in the trades. And I say guys, I know there's some women too, but there are definitely a lot fewer women. But man, you get these guys talking about their family. And sometimes, I mean, you'll see these guys just all of a sudden, like they'll just start weeping like a little baby, like talking about their family and how important they are and the passion they have for it and the hobbies that the things they do with their family. Those are all emotions. Like, so we can't say that this is an emotionless business and we don't need to do these kinds of things, because they are important to people. Definitely important to people. So yeah, so we've got to make sure that we are clear on our vision. We are clear on why we do what we do. We are clear on what acceptable behavior looks like from a values perspective. Like, what are the things that are most important to us at any time? And that's part of what we do in our program, is help them define all that.
How many people here have actually done this exercise, right? Put a values, write values in the chat here. If you have actually defined your who you are, where you're going, as well as what your core values are. I'll put it in there for myself because I know that we have at our company. We did that in 2016, and that's been one of the most valuable things that we did as a company, was to define our big, hairy, audacious goal and our core values.
Yeah. You know, we do this work for our clients all the time. I had to bring someone in to do it for me because it was too hard to do it by myself. Because this isn't easy for a lot of people. I tell people it's the hardest part of our program, of working with us. The hardest part is getting really clear on your core.
Yeah.
Because it's emotional. It has to be, or we haven't done it right. So, all right. Well, hey, let's wrap up. I've got a gift for everybody that made it today. If you guys want to throw the link in there. I got some things that are out of whack here. All right. So we've got a free download for anybody that's on the call today. This is a book I wrote. It's my first book. It was called How to Hire the Ones You Won't Want to Fire. And got a QR code there so that you can go download it for free off our website. This is our first book. This is a short one. This is only like 60 pages. We wrote it. Let's see, this book came out in January of 2020. And at the time, I'm like, I got to be short because this whole interview thing and people don't want to spend a lot of time reading. So we wrote a book. It's all about the interview process. So we didn't even talk about interviewing today, but this is going to give you a lot of great tips and tricks, the process, things that you can put in the system right away. And that's really the thing. Like we teach the introduction test. There's 3 pages in here that talk about the introduction test. It is such a valuable tool inside of the interview. It can do some amazing things for you to help you with hiring. So by all means, go check it out. Go download it for free. My other book is available on Amazon, audiobook, all that. It's a little bit more substance behind the book, but it goes into our entire CoreFit hiring system, different components, a lot of the stuff we talked about today. Unfortunately, there's no cartoons in it, but those same concepts and principles are in the other book. And it's a little bit more holistic in that it looks at not just hiring, but also retaining people as well.
That's awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on here, Ryan. Really, really, this is just pure fire. Put a 1, everybody in the chat, if you got something out of this conversation. No, I did. I wrote down a ton of things. What one, yep. What was your biggest takeaways? Feel free to unmute yourself if you want to, right? Let's talk through some of the biggest takeaways, because sometimes going to a workshop and not having, sometimes, as we leave these things, if we don't have a clear anything that we came out of it with, someone might say something that others might be thinking. So what's your biggest takeaway? I'll let you go, Maurice.
Okay. Hey, how you doing, everyone? My name is George from Florida.
Hey, George.
Hey, George.
Yeah. So very interesting. I mean, your comments. I don't have anything to say because I think this is things that you have to think, and swallow and internalize. Because we have many like habits or ideas already, taken by that is the reality. So, for example, when you said that, employees are not looking for just money. For example, I'm trying to create right now my sales team, and every sales guy is telling me, no, what is important for me is money. I see that like on not on every interview, but the good sales people, they're looking for money.
Can I comment on that? Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
So when you break it down, this is what we found with salespeople. Salespeople are looking for ways to win. They are obsessed with winning. And in absence of other ways to put points on the scoreboard, because often we don't give them any other metrics other than their commission check, they look at the size of their paycheck as to tell how well are they winning. So yes, salespeople will tell you it's about money, but the thing about salespeople is they shouldn't be getting paid unless you are getting paid. So it's okay to pay them more. Can't say the same for crews, but it's all about winning for them. So if you can find other ways for them to put points on the scoreboard besides a commissionable check, you can start attracting great salespeople.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that's what I'm gotta dive into, like, instead of just money, whatever, like, going, like changing the idea, going deeper and find the real insights for, to hire the right and the people that's gonna stay with the company for a long time,
Yeah. No, I get it. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Someone else?
Yeah,
Any
I
other
got one.
takeaways?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was I got a better understanding of when you were saying that only 2% of Americans can go without a paycheck for 30 days. So that, yeah, it really makes a lot of sense on why you need to act quick when someone, I guess, responds to you, or you come across someone that's inquiring about maybe wanting to, work on your team, and you say, I'll get to them today's Monday and I'll get back to them by Thursday.
Yeah.
They got bills to pay, and so yeah, that's what I get a better understanding of why you really need to act fast when somebody looks or even sounds like they're interested.
Yep.
I also wanted to ask you a quick question about the DISC assessment. What's your thoughts about that, or do you know anything?
Yeah, I love behavioral profiles, pre-hire assessments. We talk a lot about them in our program. They're a great way to learn about somebody quickly, to understand their behaviors. However, I don't subscribe to the idea that we use them as a hiring tool, in the sense that we're using them to make the decision. Like, oh, you didn't fit the profile, so you're not hired. I don't like that. I like using them and saying, okay, you're different than me. You're different than what I thought. Let's have the conversation where those differences are going to cause an issue. And let's deal with that up front. But where you'll get 98% of the value from a DISC assessment or any behavioral profile is not in the hiring process. It's once they're a part of your team.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can give that DISC profile to their manager, and you can give the manager's profile to them and say, here you go. Let's talk about how you guys are going to work together, how you're going to collaborate. Let's talk about the rest of the people on your crew. And let's talk about how you're going to interact with them, like understand each other's differences. That's where you're going to get the most valuable from those assessments. So if you do use them pre-hire, do not just put them in a filing cabinet and forget about them. Make them part of your onboarding process.
Okay. Great.
Love that.
And
My biggest
well, I was going to say, Ryan, are you able to also touch base a little bit more on your applicant tracking system that you had talked about earlier too? You said that we could either contact you for resources on that, or what's the best way to go about that?
Yeah, so we've got 2 of them that we are recommending right now. And with both of them, if you shoot me an email, you know what, let me put my email in here. And you shoot me an email, I will introduce you to our contact, and they will load up your applicant tracking system version with a bunch of our templates. So you don't have to go create all these emails. I do get affiliate commissions from them, so that's one of the reasons I ask, but it's a nice value add for you as well. So if you email me, I will might ask you a couple of questions, but we've got 2 that we like. One is called Applicant Pro. Applicant Pro, I like to describe as it's a great all-around tool. It's been around for a long time. There's a lot of people using it, but it's not great at anything. Like, there's nothing that it stands out. It's like, oh, it's the best at this. It's just good all around. And we put most of our clients on Applicant Pro because it's good, stable system. And it does a lot of stuff, but it doesn't do things like automated texting. It doesn't have built-in video interviewing. It doesn't have built-in assessments. Like, it doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles. And so we have a new one that we just started working with called Discovered. And that one has all that stuff built in. So you can actually get someone answering your first interview questions by talking into their phone and recording a video. And then you can go watch the videos and go, okay, that's someone I want to talk to. Or you can give them mechanical aptitude assessments or even a DISC assessment. It's all built into the system. So they can get all of that and go through all that. And it's got automated texting, automated emails, built-in scheduling. Like, it's got a lot of bells and whistles, which is cool. So those are the 2 that we're using right now. And it really just depends. If you're super tech savvy, Discovered might be the way to go because you get a fun new tool with lots of bells and whistles. If you just want something that works, that's stable, that's got a good track record, Applicant Pro might be the better one.
Nice, thanks. And for anyone who's just listening to this, not in chat or anything, Ryan's email is Ryan, RYAN, at corematters, plural.com. So COREMATTERS.com.
Thank you, Ross.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Ryan. Really, really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge with us. Of course, if you're listening to this as a podcast or you're watching this on YouTube later, which, you know, a lot of people probably will be, you know, just make sure that you reach out to Ryan and go to his website at corematters.com to ensure that he can help you with your hiring, right? We all need good people. And if you're a roofer, who else are you going to go to here, right? So let's go and have Ryan help you out with all of that. Okay, so last thing, if you don't know who I am, you're just now getting to the end of this. I didn't even announce who the heck I was. My name is Chris Hunter, and I am the author of The Ultimate Guide to Digital Marketing for Roofers. If you don't have that in your hands, which I know every single person that is on this webinar right now do have it in their hands. If you don't have it in their hands, go to go.roofingsites.com and I will send a digital copy over to you for free. All right, that's about all that we have for our monthly workshops. Be sure to tune in for next month. I believe we are going to go over some AI stuff, one of my favorite topics as of late. And we're going to show you how to do some really cool things in marketing that are coming around inside of AI and using AI as a tool. I don't want y'all to be afraid of it. It is definitely not anything to be afraid of. It's like being afraid of an air hammer, right? All right. Well, appreciate y'all coming on and let's wrap this up.
All right. Thank you.